I forget who else the other guys, but Charlie and I were the heavies in the Bonanza. And so I went to Dortort's office about a week later on a Friday, and he said, Bob, I'd like you to meet Mr. Such and Such, NBC New York, NBC Miami, NBC Burbank, NBC Chicago. I'm all these guys in suits. You never see these guys. And he said, I'm putting a show together. I liked your work and whatever. Would you, and I want to put you in the cast of this new series, High Chaparral. And I said, David, what time Monday? Well, David doesn't have that quick a sense of humor. He said, no, it'll be about 6 weeks before we go into production.
But you know, to know you, you do a lot of those one-liners, and people say, well, they don't know how to take you,
Yeah.
because but that's what keeps it fun.
Yeah, well,
How many seasons and how many episodes of High Chaparral?
we did 4 years. We did the pilot in 56. We did 4 years. We were supposed to go the 5th year, and NBC would rather have kept Bonanza, and I know why. It was because, well, whatever. But we were the new thing, and we should have gone on.
Yeah,
'Cause we were the
that's
best
true.
Western series.
That's true, because it was a mistake, and I'll tell you why. High Chaparral was a great show. It's still getting in their major audiences that they were getting. And Bonanza, a year or so later, lost Dan Blocker, and it was never the same anyway.
Never, that's true. Dan, and Dan was a personal friend. A friend of ours, a stuntman by the name of Troy Milton, owned a restaurant, a little restaurant, and a bar called the Playboy, not the one that you see in these magazines, outside the Bronson Gate. So Dan called me, and he came over to our set, and he said, Bobby, do me a favor. There's a woman that comes in there every Thursday. The only reason she goes there is to cash her check. She doesn't have a drink. She has nothing, just to cash her check. She's going to be in there because we've set it up with a girl or a secretary, and she's going to be inside the dining room.
Right.
You and I are going to put a fight on. I said, okay, Dan. So the Chaparral guys are on one side of the room and the Bonanza, and he said something. I said, shut up, you fat son of a... What did you say? He said, I said, you heard what I said. He gets up, I get up, right? And Dan could squeeze my head like a grape.
Dan's a big man. He was a big man.
And a good guy. And so we go to the mat, and we're rolling and tossing and throwing punches and just pulling them at the last minute like that.
Like you're trained to do.
Yeah, right. And we roll over to this girl's table, and I said, excuse me, ma'am, can I use your knife? And she goes, yes. And I grabbed Dan by the hair, and I started cutting like this, and she's screaming and yelling because the hairpiece. They wore a hairpiece. The hairpiece came off. She screamed and ran out of there. She never went back. Never went back.
Yeah, it's so classic. Thank you for telling that. The Bonanza versus High Chaparral. I would have loved to see that.
Oh, that was great. And of course, Michael was a friend of ours and a good guy.
And Michael had a sense of humor too.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Wow, that was funny. That is good stuff.
Yeah, that was.
So now, after High Chaparral, you know, you did quite a bit of work too on different television episodes, and now you're here at the 57th annual Rex Sutherland Days, and we want to thank you for coming on our show. And are you having fun, Bobby?
Yes, what it is it's like a big family. The fans that remember the show, or that and some of the actors. And a lot of our guys are gone now. Leif Erikson and Cameron Mitchell, and Bobby Contreras, Rui Acosta, Jerry Summers. They've all passed on. So we're the last. There's about 4 or 5 of us left, and we keep the tradition going as long as we can, as long as the people want to see it. You know.
We all do, Bobby.
And speaking of Rex Allen, this is the second year I've been here, and I've never worked with Rex. But guess what? My wife, Kiva Lawrence, that's her stage name, did a picture with him in the early 70s called Swamp Country.
Swamp Country.
Right. Rex was in that, and Rex and her became pretty close.
You almost
friends.
started to sound like Rex there. Swamp Country.
I wonder if I could, actually. But anyway, I want to thank you for having me. And
Bobby, we love you. And you know, it's good to see the relationship that you have with your fellow cast members from High Chaparral, and which celebrated their 40th anniversary recently. And you guys are going to have another reunion coming up, too.
That's right. And we're going to have it where we originated, in Old Tucson. So we're going to have it. That'll be next October in '09.
Got to go to that, Bobby.
Yeah, be there.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bobby. We all love you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Bobby,
Be safe.
give everybody a big hand.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Don.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, thanks for coming on.
Well, my pleasure. I was only here, I think, 2 other times. It seemed like I was always busy. I'm not very busy anymore, so I can make all the rest of them. and it's a pleasure to be back. I think the last time I was here was about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
About 10 years ago, yeah. And I can't believe how this celebration has grown.
Me too.
And there must be, 20 times more people here today than I saw
Hey, I'm impressed
10
too.
years ago.
Very
Me
much.
too. This is a huge parade.
Very, a huge parade. And you know what, Don? I was here in '96 interviewing Rex Sr. and Pedro Gonzalez. I can't imagine all the people I seen in the parade today. Could you, Don?
I was up there last week. Old Buck had his Western Film Festival up there in a new location. Oh, you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did pretty good. He did pretty good. But I'll tell you, driving out there on the freeway and all that, my goodness, the cars and the traffic.
You're right. It's got too big.
Oh, yeah.
But we just did a show in Las Vegas in May, and there was a whole lot of people there. And then my lady friend and I, my fiancée Marianne, we went to New York just a few months ago, right, Marianne?
Yeah.
You can talk about people all you want. Big,
Yeah,
flat guts of people.
Oh, yeah, no.
We're a little spoiled. You go to New York and you gotta say,
That's
"Yeah,
crowded.
that's crowded."
That's crowded. Yeah.
Well, the last thing I've seen you in, and I know you had some things coming out recently. Those commercials you did, those are always the kick to see you because I know you, and when I see you in those, I go, hey, there's Big Don. It's good to see Don in the cowboy setting again.
I did a lot of commercials through the 70s and 80s, and they were good. I like commercials because they're quick and easy, and you can make some money.
You sure can.
You know.
You sure can. I did a couple in Texas for a Western wear.
Yeah.
And you can make more money in a commercial than you can in a couple of movies. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, in a shorter period of
In
time.
a much shorter period of time. And you don't sit around and do nothing.
No.
Speaking of, let's get into the High Chaparral. Before we do that, though, man, you did a body of work before and after High Chaparral. So when I just say a start from High Chaparral, that's not saying the whole picture because you've done so many fine motion pictures before the Chaparral.
Well, about 15 or 17 movies. I started the business in 1948. My card is around 35. I was about the 3500th actor in the guild. Now there's 126,000, I think. But I worked a couple of years, and I had a scholarship to play football. So I took a hiatus from the picture business, and I went and played football at Hardin-Simmons University down in Texas.
That's good.
And then found out that I wasn't a scholar. So I dropped out of school and came back to California. I went into business for a few years and didn't like that. Then went back into picture business in 56 and started getting enough work to make a living in around 58, early 58. And then I did a series called The Outlaws in 50, 59, 60, and 61.
That makes sense. And when I was looking up, because you just got my curiosity thinking that when I looked at your film credits, I started saying, well, you did Fort Apache in 48.
Well,
and then there's a little gap there, and then,
Right.
you came back.
I worked on Fort Apache, a little tiny part. I was on it for a few weeks. One called Massacre River with Guy Madison, Roy Calhoun, and one called Indian Scout with old George Montgomery.
George Montgomery, yep.
And a couple others I can't even remember. And then that's when
Then you left. And,
Went to
well, you
school.
always was a pretty physical guy. So how did the football thing turn out?
I was we call it left and right end in those days, and I played left end, and I was high scorer that first year.
Wow.
And but I couldn't study. I always thought I could tell you stories about how dumb and stupid I was.
Oh, I doubt that.
That when I found out later how stupid I was, I couldn't believe it myself. But anyway,
You got back in the motion picture,
back
and
to
we're happy for that anyway. We're happy for you getting back into
and
business.
it's been great.
And so you have no regrets getting out of football and back into our film.
No. I'm glad I discovered the film business again because I soon realized I was cut out for it.
Yeah.
And it's been good to me, and I've had a good time.
Well, and you've been good to us because it's always a pleasure to see you in these films like The Undefeated and The War Wagon, Safe at Home, and all these films that you've done. And it goes on and on and on. I could be here going through a lot of your list of films. But do you have any favorites, Don? Is that just too hard to say?
The two pictures I made with John Wayne, War Wagon and Undefeated, were my favorites.
You shine in those. In the War Wagon, you played one of the henchmen to, I guess, Buster Bruce Cabot.
Bruce Cabot.
Bruce Cabot. And then in the Undefeated,